This is part 3 of season 2 of Arrow, so if you haven't seen the first 2 parts, they're linked down in the description. And if you haven't seen the first season, it's also linked in the description. I don't know how you got here, but you're welcome to stay. But, like, also, check the links. Episode 12, Tremors. We open in Iron Heights prison, okay? There's a new prisoner coming in. He sets off the metal detector like crazy, but they still let him through. He ends up in a cell with Turner, the Bronze Tiger, the Wolverine guy. The new prisoner, he has Turner's blades, like, sewn into his skin. And so once the guards walk away, he starts, like, pulling them out, and they just... It's really gross and disturbing, but then that guy obviously dies, and then Turner takes his blades, assembles his little claw, and then he manages to escape prison. Title screen. The Hood is training Roy. Roy is now the Hood's little apprentice. The Hood reveals to Roy that he knew someone who was injected with Marikuru before, and Roy's like, oh, how'd that end? And Oliver is like, I drove an arrow through his eye. On the island, Sarah and Oliver are making their way to the cave because they think Slade is at the cave. So they gotta find Slade, they're gonna start there. At the Queen Mansion, Thea and Moira have another conversation and another opportunity for Moira to tell this girl the truth. Okay, of course she doesn't. Moira tells Thea that she's going on a little date, a little dinner with Walter. He reached out to her, and she doesn't know if they're gonna patch things up or anything, but she's willing and optimistic. Thea thinks this is a great idea. Officer Lance goes to see Laurel, okay? Their relationship is a little bit rocky, but he extends out an olive branch, and he's like, do you want to come out to dinner with me tomorrow night? Okay, I really want to hang with you. I want to try and fix our little relationship. And Laurel agrees. In the Arrow Cave, the gang finds out that the Bronze Tiger escaped from Iron Heights. Turner, Bronze Tiger, goes to meet with the man who hired him. He's the guy that, set him free. This man is like, Turner, I need you to steal a weapon of mass destruction for me. Could kill potentially thousands of people. Can you get it for me? Turner's like, yeah, sure. So this is just another typical Tuesday afternoon in Starling City. The Hood, the Arrow, I'm sorry, oh my god, I keep calling him the Hood. He's the Arrow now. Excuse me. The Arrow keeps training Roy, and Roy is not having fun slapping that water. He thinks it's pointless. He thinks it's stupid, okay? And he's like, hey, Arrow, can I please just go out with you on one mission? It'll make all of this seem worth it. Just get me out there one fight, okay? I promise I won't screw up. And the Hood agrees. The Arrow, Oliver agrees. Turns out Walter's dinner invite had some ulterior motives. He wants Moira to run for mayor. Lance's dinner invite also had ulterior motives because he's not bringing Laurel to a little steakhouse. He's bringing Laurel to an AA meeting. He drug her to an AA meeting without her consent. Once she realizes where they are, Laurel nopes the fuck out of there. She's like, I am hungry. And I don't want to be here, okay? So Laurel leaves. Felicity and Diggle let Oliver know that they found out that Turner stole the blueprints to Malcolm Merlin's house. The Arrow and Roy, they suit up to head to Merlin's house to see what the heck Turner's doing there. When they roll up there, they find that Turner is stealing a prototype of the earthquake machine that just so happened to be lying around in Malcolm Merlin's house. None of the authorities thought to confiscate that. They get into a fight, but Turner ends up getting away because Roy started beating up some guy, and then Oliver had to turn his attention away from Turner to stop Roy from killing this other guy. So Turner gets away with the earthquake machine. In the Arrow Cave, Oliver, not happy with Roy and what he just pulled back there. He let Turner get away. Oliver's like, I am never letting Roy go out in the field again. He's not ready. He's a loose cannon. He's gonna make everything worse. Felicity starts tracking down Turner using some fingerprints, I guess. On the island, Oliver and Sarah figure out that Slade is planning to bomb the freighter using the missile launcher from season 1. So they head to the missile launcher to try and stop Slade. Roy goes to Thea, and he's like, Thea, you need to skip town. You need to get out of town for a couple of days, because Roy is worried that whoever hired Turner is going to use the earthquake machine on Starling City, so he wants Thea to get out. But he doesn't tell her why, and when she asks why and he won't answer her, she gets upset, and then he, like, starts squeezing her arm a little bit too tightly, and she's like, oh my god, Roy, you're hurting me, and then he lets go and runs away once he realizes what he's doing. Remember Joanna from season 1? Laurel's girl boss bestie with the dead firefighter brother? Remember her? She's got her own firm now. Girl boss lawyer Joanna runs her own law firm. That's what it's called. And Laurel has a job interview. Okay, so Laurel walks in and Joanna's like, Laurel, listen, bestie, I would love to hire you, but my partners, they aren't so enthused. Okay, because Laurel now has a record. She's been arrested for possession of drugs. Okay, and you can't be a lawyer if you have been arrested for drugs. Okay, so Joanna tells this to Laurel. Laurel gets all sad and then she leaves. Thea finds out that Walter wants Moira to run for mayor, and Thea thinks it's a brilliant idea. Moira, still on the fence. Roy confronts the Hood. Okay, the Arrow. I wrote the Hood in my notes. I am literally gonna kill myself. Okay, Roy confronts the Arrow, and the Arrow's like, Roy, I cannot bring you back out in the field. You're gonna have to sit this next one out. I'm gonna fight Turner alone. Roy's like, no, you're fucking not. I don't need your permission to go fight these bad guys. I'm gonna do whatever I want, okay? Whatever the hell I want, all right? It's his Bellamy Blake moment. Oliver's in the Arrow Cave, and then Thea calls Oliver to tell him that Laurel is in the bar drunk, okay? So Oliver heads upstairs to talk to Laurel. Laurel is, she's unapproachable at this point. She does not want to hear anything from anyone. All of a sudden, Oliver gets a call from Felicity. They just got the fingerprint results back, so now they know where Turner is. So Oliver has to leave to go deal with that, so Thea calls Laurel a cab. On the island, Oliver and Sarah arrive at the missile launcher. They try to talk Slade down from this. They're like, Slade, the freighter is our only way off the island. If you blow it up, we're trapped here. Slade doesn't care. He's like, I vote killed Shadow. I'm gonna kill Ivo. I don't give a fuck if it damns us on this island. Oliver pulls a gun on him. Moira goes to Verdant to talk to Thea about running for mayor again, and Thea is still all for it. She's like, Moira, you should do it. You got this. Moira is like, okay, maybe I will. Mayor Moira has a nice ring to it. Maybe I will. Oliver goes to confront Bronze Tiger and the man who employed him. They are on a rooftop. The earthquake machine is there. They have the earthquake machine in, like, some kind of box that's, like, made of some military-grade impenetrable steel. Oliver gets jumped by Turner. Roy shows up, saves the Arrow, but Roy again gets so distracted and he keeps punching Turner. And also, the earthquake machine is about to blow, okay? They turned it on. There's only like 10 seconds before the whole place blows. So Oliver's trying to get Roy to stop punching Turner and then instead turn off the earthquake machine because the only person who can get to it is Roy because he has to punch through that steel to get to it. But Roy is not listening. The Arrow keeps yelling, Roy, help, Roy, you gotta stop, Roy, you gotta listen. The only way that Oliver is able to get Roy to, stop punching Turner and listen to him is by unmasking himself. So Oliver reveals his true identity to Roy. They have a bro moment where Roy goes over to the box, punches through it, turns off the earthquake machine. Oliver and Roy shake hands. Roy thanks him for saving him last year. On the island, Oliver and Sarah, they manage to talk Slade down. He's decided that he's not going to blow up the freighter anymore, and the three of them have a new mission. Now, they're going to take over the freighter, and they're going to use the freighter to get the hell off this island. In prison, a woman wearing red high heels approaches Turner's cell. She introduces herself to Turner. She's like, my name's Amanda Waller. And Turner's like, Amanda Waller? I hardly know her. She tells Turner that she needs him for a new unit. Well, it's actually more of a squad. Yeah. Yeah. Oliver introduces Roy to Team Arrow officially. This is the first time that he meets Felicity and John. Laurel gets home, drunk off her ass, and who does she see? Sarah. Before she blacks out, she sees her sister. Oh my god. So that's the end of the episode. We do get some Felicity lore this episode. She reveals that she ate an entire pint of mint chip ice cream the night that Oliver revealed his true identity to her so that she could cope with it. Felicity Smoke, canonically, loves mint chip ice cream, and I bring this up because they bring it up again in later seasons. Felicity is constantly eating, talking about eating, or thinking about eating mint chip ice cream. It becomes like one of her core personality traits. At the end of episode 12, Oliver made 13 dramatic speeches, 3 smart remarks, 39 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 5 times, making Oliver the funniest character this episode. Sassiest character, the one with the most smart remarks, was Laurel. Drunk Laurel is kind of a savage. Roy also made a hell of a lot of dramatic speeches. He made 7 of them. Episode 13, Heir to the Demon. We open on some very strange, attractive woman. She's in the Starling City airport. She's trying to get through security, but her name is flagged by Argus, okay? So the airport security start fighting her, and she kills at least 3 of them on screen, and then just walks on into Starling City. Title screen. So we're at the Queen Mansion. Walter, Moira, and Mark, who is Moira's new campaign manager, they are talking about the campaign, and Felicity shows up, and she pulls Walter aside, and she's like, hey, Walter, remember Tempest? That shell corporation that Moira was, using to do really shady things for the undertaking with? Someone was moving money through it again, recently. And Walter's like, okay, you should look into this. Oliver also shows up, and Mark and Walter ask him to immediately end his support for Sebastian Blood's campaign, because remember, Oliver has been publicly supporting Sebastian Blood for basically the entire season, but now his mom is running for mayor, so Oliver needs to stop supporting Sebastian Blood and start supporting Moira, so Oliver agrees. Oliver gets a phone call from Lance, and he immediately leaves the mansion and heads to the hospital where Laurel is, okay? Laurel's in the hospital because she OD'd last night. She hit her head, so she's on concussion watch, and they think she OD'd, but Laurel is like, I didn't OD last night, okay? Like, I was drunk, but I wasn't that drunk. The nurse is like, we need to do an eye exam on you for some reason, and Oliver also kind of looks at Laurel's eyes, and he sees there's something weird in her eye. Once everyone else leaves, Laurel talks to her father alone, and she's like, Dad, this might sound crazy, but I saw Sarah last night. Like, I know she was just a hallucination, but I saw her and, like, it felt so real. And Lance just kind of has to go, yeah. We're at the Arrow Cave. Sarah is there. Oliver is trying to convince her not to skip town, but Sarah is about to skip town because the League is still after her. She just came back to see if Laurel was okay. Oliver asks Felicity to try and get a copy of Laurel's blood work from the hospital for some unspecified reason, and Lance calls the Arrow to talk to Sarah. In a flashback from before the Gambit went down, we see the Lance family. They're having a regular day at the Lance family household. Sarah is texting Oliver to let him know that she is ready to go. Sarah goes to meet with her father. He asks her to stay in town because Laurel misses her. Sarah does not answer him. She just leaves. Sarah is walking away from wherever this meeting was. She's out on the street alone. Oliver, dressed as the Arrow, is lurking in the shadows, watching her. All of a sudden, out from the freaking heavens comes some rando ass woman, and she's on one of those like aerial silk things. Like, she just freaking twirls down, and Oliver is just watching this, and this woman approaches Sarah, okay, and she's got a knife, and she's about to like stab Sarah, it would seem, so Oliver aims his bow at her, but this woman doesn't stab Sarah, she kisses Sarah. Plot twist. This woman, our final question character, Oliver approaches the two of them, and we learn that this woman's name is Nissa Al Ghul, daughter of Ra's al Ghul, heir to the demon. Period. She is here because she wants Sarah to come back to the League, okay? Because Sarah's supposed to be at the League. Oliver obviously does not want Sarah to go back to the League, so him and Nissa, not friends, okay? That's important for later. This is a crazy scene. So Felicity rolls up to the Queen Mansion to confront Moira Queen, Queen of Lies, and she's like, hey, Moira, I found out that you were moving money through Tempest and you were paying off some doctor, and I looked into it a little bit more. So basically, Felicity knows that Thea is Malcolm's daughter, and she went to talk to Moira because she wants Moira to tell Oliver. And Moira is like, no, I'm not gonna tell Oliver. And neither are you, Miss Smoke, okay? Because if you tell Oliver about this whole thing, he's gonna hate you. He's gonna hate you so much. And I know you love him. If you do this to him, you'll destroy his whole world. And he'll hate you. Sarah and Nissa are having a little chat, and in this conversation we learn that Nissa found Sarah on Lian Yu, starving, dying, so Nissa took Sarah to the League of Assassins. They nursed her back to health, and the rest is history. Sarah joined the League. Sarah and Nissa became a little bit of a couple. Sarah said, I am done. I'm through with all those super mega bummer boys like you. Sarah is like, Nissa, can't you just release me from the League because Ra's al Ghul released Malcolm Merlyn from the League? So she's like, we cannot release you from the League because releasing Malcolm Merlyn was a huge mistake. Like, look what he did. So Nissa's like, the only options now are you come back to the League with me or I kill you. Nissa pulls out her knife again and she's trying to kill Sarah, but she can't bring herself to do it. Sarah is like, I'm not coming back to the League. So they both part ways. In the Arrow Cave, Oliver is shirtless and swinging a hammer at a giant tire for some reason, while Felicity sits in a chair, watches him, contemplates her life choices. Sarah comes back and she's like, I'm gonna flee the country. But she can't flee the country just yet because Diggle shows up and he reveals that Laurel didn't OD on regular drugs, she OD'd on Tibetan pit viper venom. And Sarah's like, what did you just say? Tibetan pit viper venom? That is the poison that the League of Assassins uses. Okay, so they all assume that Nissa poisoned Laurel in an attempt to get Sarah to return to the League. So, we have another flashback to before the gambit goes down. We're at the Lance house. Laurel and Sarah are having a sister moment. Laurel reveals to Sarah that she and Oliver are thinking about getting a house together. And Sarah is like, really? Like, are you sure that he's ready for that? And then Laurel gets mad because she's like, what the fuck do you know about Oliver and I? And then Sarah's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be a bitch. And then Laurel's like, title of your autobiography. So that's such a sister thing. They're so sister. At the hospital, Dinah Lance, Laurel's mom, came to see her. Dinah gets kidnapped by Nissa and some other big man from the League of Assassins. They throw her in the back of a truck. Oliver and Sarah are hot on their tails, but they end up getting away. Nissa calls Sarah and she's like, hello, my darling. You have 24 hours to come back to the League or I will kill your mother. Nissa does not sound like that. I don't know what I was doing. She doesn't sound like that. See a scene between Moira Queen and Sebastian Blood, and Sebastian's like, Moira, you shouldn't run for mayor, okay? And Moira's like, you shouldn't underestimate me. The Arrow, Sarah, and Officer Lance team up as a trio. They try to find Dinah and Nissa. They have a little conversation where Lance says that he supports Sarah's sexuality, so we stand an ally, okay? Not all cops. Anyway, then the big burly man who helped Nissa kidnap Dinah shows up, so they take him down, and they're like, where is Nissa? But this guy kills himself so that he doesn't have to reveal the information. This is crazy. I feel like I say this every time Felicity is about to do something dumb. Like, this is crazy. So we are at Moira's campaign announcement event. She is about to announce that she's running for mayor to the whole city. At this event, Felicity makes eye contact with Moira. Oliver watches this happen. It's a very strange thing, okay? Oliver goes up to Felicity. He's like, are you good? She's acting so strange, and she's contemplating telling Oliver, and she tells Oliver that her dad abandoned her when she was little, and she doesn't want anyone else in her life to abandon her again. And Oliver says that no matter what she has to say, he will never leave her. Sarah gets a call from Nissa, and she agrees to go back to Nanda Parbat to save her mother. We are at Laurel's apartment. Laurel just got released from the hospital. She is not having the greatest time of her life, okay? Lance is like, Laurel, is there anything I can get for you? Laurel's response, my mother. Lance is about to tell Laurel that Sarah is back and alive, but before he can get the words out, he gets a phone call from Sarah, so he has to leave to help her. Turns out, Felicity did tell Oliver about Thea right before Oliver was supposed to go up and make an endorsement speech for his mother's campaign. So Oliver gets up on stage, and it's a real tense scene, okay? We don't know what Oliver Queen is about to say. He could say the most incriminating shit ever right now. There's a lot of intense, long pauses between words. The camera is, like, really tight on Oliver. It's like the dashes back to Moira, then back to Felicity, and then Oliver finally does endorse Moira's campaign. After Oliver's finished making his endorsement speech, he goes up to Moira and he whispers in her ear, "I know." In the Arrow cave, Team Arrow finds out that Sarah stole the Tibetan pit viper venom, and they all immediately assume that she's about to use it to kill Nyssa. And Diggle's like, okay, why do we care? And Oliver's like, if we let Sarah kill Ra's al Ghul's daughter, we're all gonna fucking die. We need to stop Sarah from killing Nyssa. So Sarah goes up to Nyssa. Nyssa frees Dinah. Turns out Sarah wasn't gonna use the Tibetan pit viper venom to kill Nyssa. She's using it to kill herself. Sarah's like, I can't take the killing anymore. I'm not going back to the League with you. You can't kill me, so I will just kill myself for you. Oliver rolls up at just the right time. He shoves some of the magic island herbs down Sarah's throat. She survives. Nyssa releases her from the League in the name of Ra's al Ghul, and she is reunited with her entire family. All of the Lances now know that Sarah is alive. Oliver confronts Moira. He says that he knows about Thea, but he's not going to tell her because he knows that she can never know that. But he's also like, I will support you in public. I'll publicly support your campaign. I will be your golden child outside to the public. But behind closed doors, you're dead to me. You are not my mom. I'm disowning you, okay? We are through. Do not speak to me. Oliver's like, you're a liar. All you are is lies. So there's no happy reunion between Sarah and Laurel, okay? Because Laurel blames Sarah for every bad thing that has happened to her since the Gambit went down. She blames Sarah for her entire life falling apart. This is the time I should note that I put little X's on the string on the board. Family members that are fighting, they have little X's now. In a flashback, we see Moira going to the Lance's house and telling them that Sarah was on the boat. Slade goes up to Sebastian and he's like, you shouldn't have underestimated Moira Queen. He's gonna take care of Moira himself. This episode ends with Sarah and Oliver alone in the Arrow Cave, and they start getting real close. At the end of episode 13, Oliver made 8 dramatic speeches, 0 smart remarks, 48 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 7 times. I also laughed at Laurel 7 times and Felicity 7 times. We have a 777, lucky 7s. That's always a good thing. Laurel had 6 smart remarks, making her the winner for the smart remarks this episode. Nyssa killed, I think, 3 people, not really sure. Episode 14, Time of Death. New villain alert, okay? We meet this dude who is obsessed with time. Dude, obsessed with time. He hires 2 little dudes to go steal something from this place. So he's behind the computer. He's like giving them the directions. He's kind of like the Felicity Smoke of this operation. Like, in 6 seconds, make a left and then pause for 5 seconds. It's crazy shit. One of the 2 goons is fed up with listening to Father Time's instructions, and he thinks that they're gonna like get caught. So he doesn't listen to Father Time and he runs away. The 2 dudes do manage to steal the thing they were stealing, but Father Time is not happy that guy didn't listen to it. Title screen. In the Arrow Cave, Oliver, Diggle, and Sarah, they're training, they're fighting each other with bow staffs. They make a very distinct slapping noise. They use that sound effect for a lot of things in this show. A lot of things make that noise. After everyone's done fighting, the 3 of them start comparing their scars and wounds. Felicity's watching, and she's kind of jealous, so she chimes in, and she's like, I have a scar too. Yeah, it's in the back of my mouth. I got my wisdom teeth removed and there's a scar in there. Can't see it, but it's there. Oliver is like, Sarah, we are gonna throw a party for you because when someone comes back from the dead, the Queen family throws a rager. That's just how it is. Oliver and Sarah also agree to keep their new relationship. You know, they're kind of like together now. They want to keep that a secret from Laurel because it will just piss Laurel off even more. On the island, Oliver, Slade, and Sarah are looking at the freighter through binoculars when all of a sudden they see a little plane fly down close to the island. The plane gets bombed by a missile from the freighter. The plane goes down. Oliver, Sarah, and Slade go to the wreckage of this plane to investigate. Father Time yells at the goon who didn't listen to him. He also stabs and kills him, okay? Father Time does a little bit of overkill. He keeps stabbing and stabbing and stabbing. At the Queen Mansion, we're throwing the welcome back from the dead party for Sarah. Sarah gets introduced to everyone for the first time, including Sin, who Sin forgets that she's not supposed to know Sarah, so she pulls Sarah in for this big hug, and then everyone's like, do you guys know each other? And then Sin is just like, no, we don't. I mean, I just love when people come back from the dead. It juices my zombie fetish. Laurel did not come to the party, so Oliver tries to call her, but she doesn't answer. Lance goes to talk to Oliver, and he apologizes to Oliver for being a dick to him when Oliver first came back from the dead. Oliver and Moira have a really tense angry little chat. Thea sees this and clocks this. When Thea asks them what's going on, both of them pretend like everything is fine. Then Lance and Dinah are having a little conversation, and it seems like they might be trying to rekindle their relationship a little bit. But before anything serious can happen, Lance gets a phone call and he has to leave to do police stuff, and then Felicity immediately calls Oliver about the exact same thing, so he has to leave to do some Arrow stuff. Lance, Oliver, and Sarah are at the scene of this crime. There has been a homicide in the Glades, okay? They find the goon that Father Time killed laying on the street, okay? He was just dumped there. Lance reveals that this guy stole something called a skeleton key, okay? And the skeleton key is crazy. It's a thing that shouldn't even exist. Apparently, the skeleton key can open any door. Literally any door that exists, it can be opened, and it can be modified to open bank vaults. Why does this thing exist? I don't know. How does it work? Who knows, okay? But it can open any fucking door it wants. Because of course it can. The three of them decide that the dead guy was probably just the muscle, and they need to find the brain. In the Arrow Cave, Felicity, she's trying her hand at punching some stuff because she wants to be just as badass as the rest of the squad. When Sarah shows up and she sees Felicity, she gives her some pointers. She's like, adjust your stance, throw your punches this way. And then they're having like a really cute moment, and it's interrupted by Oliver. Because of course it is. Because this whole show is about Oliver. Just ruins a good moment just by entering the scene. We shift our focus to whatever Oliver has to say. They talk about finding Father Time. On the island, the gang shows up to the crashed plane. They try to use the radio, but of course, radio fried, alright? There is a pilot in the plane. He's by himself. He is dying. Not a great day for this pilot. Oliver and Slade go to look for medical supplies to try and treat the pilot, and Sarah stays with the pilot. Lance goes to talk to Laurel, alright? Their relationship, still not great, okay? Lance is like, Laurel, I want to have a dinner with you, Sarah, and your mom, okay? I want us all to come together to have a Lance family dinner, and maybe if Dinah sees us all together as a family, she'll want to come back to Starling City. She reluctantly agrees to host the whole party at her house. So there's another bank robbery going on. Father Time is behind the whole thing. Felicity's trying to hack Father Time, but Father Time is a better hacker than Felicity, so he hacks her first. Father Time hacks into Felicity's comms, and he's like, you can either come after me and stop me, or you can go stop the city bus that's heading for a train track, okay? There's the moving train. This bus is gonna get freaking rammed into this train. So somehow Time Master can hack into Felicity's comms, but he doesn't know that Oliver has Sarah with him. Oliver saves the bus full of people. Sarah goes to deal with Father Time. We're at Verdant. Thea comes up to Oliver and she's like, why are you avoiding Mom? And Oliver's like, what? I'm avoiding Mom? I'm not doing that. Definitely not doing that. Everything's fine, Thea. In the Arrow Cave, Sarah is trying to use some of Father Time's blood to get an ID on this guy. The gang has started calling Father Time the Clock King. I prefer Father Time. They're able to get an ID on this guy. Father Time, or the Clock King, sets a trap for Felicity where she hacks into his system, but it's actually some kind of Trojan, so now he is hacked into her system, and what does he do in her system? Blows up all of the Lenovo computers. Pew, 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 pew. Explosions. The entire Arrow Cave, anything that's connected to the internet, blows the fuck up. Felicity is trying to rebuild the entire system, and Oliver and Sarah are like, is there any way we can help? And she's like, no. Felicity is pissed. Everything is going wrong. She is supposed to be the computer wizard, and yet she just got tricked, and the whole Arrow Cave just blew up, and it's all her fault, and she's like so upset because Sarah is so cool. Sarah can fight. Sarah can run blood tests. And what can Felicity do? Nothing. Felicity is just flop after flop after flop in this episode. But Diggle goes up to her and he's like, hey, Felicity, you are so important. You got bested today, but tomorrow you're gonna come back even stronger. We love Diggle in this house. Also, during this scene, Oliver and Sarah have a moment where Sarah is like, hey, Oliver, can you please come to this Lance family dinner with me? I don't want to go by myself, okay? Oliver is like, I don't know if I should impose. Like, I was not invited. Laurel did not invite me, but Sarah convinces him to come with her anyway. The Lance family dinner does not go the way Mr. Lance wants it to. Quentin keeps making these little side remarks about how Dinah should move back to Starling City. And Dinah's like, oh, Quentin, I can't move back to Starling City. Like, my whole life is in Central City. I have a job there, and I met someone in Central City. And Quentin's like, oh. Laurel blows up. She's like, are you kidding me? This is what this is about? You thought that Mom was just gonna wait around for years just so that you could come and sweep her back off her feet? Laurel gets up and leaves her own apartment. She's like, clean up when you're done and get the fuck out of my house. And she just leaves her own dinner. On the island, Sarah is chilling out with this dying pilot and he says, please take care of my daughter. He gives her a little Polaroid picture of his daughter and he's like, please take care of my daughter because when I die, she's not gonna have any parents left. And Sarah's like, got you. Laurel runs out of her apartment. Oliver follows her out. They have a wild conversation. I'm going to try and put on my acting cap and really, really play this one out for you. You are unbelievable. You lecture me on how I need to repair my relationship with Sarah, and yet you're the one who ruined it in the first place by screwing her. And now you're doing it again. You're right. This is all my fault. Yeah, it is. And is you losing your job, doing drugs, and being a drunk, is that my fault? Or is that your family's fault? Or are you gonna blame Tommy for dying? Screw you, Oliver. I have stood by you through everything. The DUI, losing your job. Laurel, I was concerned about your well-being when you were trying to get my mother the death penalty. Yeah, and you've been a real stand-up kind of guy. Laurel, do you think you're the only one that is having a hard time right now? You think you're the only one with family issues? You have no idea what is going on with my family right now. But I'm still standing here, and you are still blaming everybody but yourself. Are you done? Yeah, I'm done. I'm done taking the blame. And I'm done caring. This conversation finishes by Oliver telling Laurel to go get drunk at Verdant, and then he turns around and walks back into her apartment. At the Arrow Cave, the gang is like, yo, where's Felicity? This girl just fucking disappeared. Where'd Felicity go? And then they find out that Felicity went to the bank that Father Time is about to rob. She went there without telling anyone, and she is by herself. She is trying to stop Father Time by herself. Father Time realizes that she's there and he hacks into the bank's security systems or some shit, and he's about to like cause an explosion in the gas main, so Diggle goes to deal with that while Oliver goes to try and stop the robbery that's happening right now with that skeleton key. Diggle manages to stop the whole place from blowing up. Oliver takes down the robbers. It's actually a really engaging fight scene. I usually think they're kind of boring and drawn out, but I really did like this fight scene. Felicity is able to find where Father Time is, so Sarah and Felicity head to go try and stop him directly. Felicity ends up pushing Sarah out of the way of a bullet. The bullet hits Felicity in the arm. We think Father Time is about to kill them when Felicity grabs her phone and she explodes Father Time's phone. Somehow, using the power of the internet, I guess. So, Felicity wins. Girl boss, Supreme Felicity Smoke, has saved the frickin' day. In the Arrow Cave, Sarah is stitching up Felicity's wound. Felicity has been given some very strong pain medications, okay? So she's kind of like having a really great time. She tells Oliver that she's sad that she's not his girl anymore because Sarah's back and now Sarah's his girl, but she is supposed to be his girl, but not like that, like his girl, like, you know. And Oliver's like, Felicity, you will always be my girl. Cute. When are these fucking bitches gonna kiss? Also, Felicity's really happy that she has a battle scar now. She's got a bullet scar in her arm, and that's very exciting for her. So yay, Felicity. Upstairs in the bar, Sarah is the new bartender. Laurel shows up, and her and Sarah, they have a conversation and they make up, okay? Laurel does not hate Sarah anymore. It's a very teary kind of conversation where they both get over their differences, and they're sister. They're so sister. Sin goes to see Sarah, and this is where we learn that Sin is the pilot's daughter. On the island, the pilot died. RIP pilot. Sarah is very depressed about this. The gang finds a parachute inside of the plane, and they decide that they're going to use the parachute to get onto the freighter. Laurel decides to go to an AA meeting. AA bad before, now AA good. Lance is very happy about this. You know what I'm going to say? This is crazy. At the Queen Mansion, Oliver walks in on Moira having a meeting with none other than Slade Wilson! Slade Wilson revealed. Moira's like, Oliver, this is my new business partner, Mr. Wilson. And then Oliver has to shake hands with Slade, and the sound effect that plays when they shake hands is the same slapping noise that they use for the bow staffs hitting each other.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
At the end of episode 14, Oliver made 9 dramatic speeches, 5 smart remarks, 33 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 7 times. The funniest character this episode was Felicity. I laughed at her 10 times, followed up really closely by Laurel, who I laughed at 9 times. Felicity actually had the most dramatic speeches this episode as well, with 11. The sassiest character, the one with the most smart remarks, was Laurel. She had 6. Episode 15, The Promise. We open at the Queen Mansion. We're on Moira, Oliver, Slade. Slade has made a huge donation contribution to Moira's campaign. Oliver is trying his best to get Slade Wilson out of his house, okay? But Moira is getting angry because Slade is her guest and he's a super nice guy. Slade then pulls out a bottle of authentic Australian rum. And oh my god, it's the same bottle that Oliver just had in the Arrow Cave. So Slade must have been in there. Ooh. So then we flash over to the island. In the past, we see a training montage of Oliver, Slade, and Sarah. They're training because they're gonna take over the freighter, so they're getting ready for that. We see another really cute friendship bonding moment between Oliver and Slade. So you know that their friendship is about to be completely destroyed because it's finally at its peak. Title screen. This is an island-centric episode. Most of the episode is going to be happening on the island. Oliver, Sarah, and Slade are discussing how they're going to be taking the freighter. Sarah is crushing up some herbs. We're not really sure why. Oliver asks her if it will work. She says, I hope so. The 3 of them decide that the best thing to do is to burn the rest of the Marakuru, just in case things go south, to make sure that Ivo can't have it. Sarah and Oliver have a little aside where Sarah again is like, Oliver, you need to kill Ivo, okay? Because if Ivo gets the chance, he will tell Slade that you chose to kill Shadow, and he will be able to turn this all around and blame Shadow's death on you, okay? And then Slade is going to want to kill you instead, okay? So if you get the chance, you need to kill Ivo immediately. And Oliver is like, but I don't really want to kill people, you know? Slade shows up, he's got his rum, they drink together, they cheers to taking over the freighter. Oliver tells Sarah that if he doesn't make it, he wants her to go back home to Starling City and tell his family what happened to him. Okay, because Island Oliver is a changed man from Oliver who was the playboy back in Starling City. And Sarah says if she doesn't make it out alive, she wants Oliver to go home and tell her family that she died on the boat, okay? She doesn't want the Lance family to know that she ever made it back to the island. She wants them to remember her as she was. And then they all get to sleep because tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow they're taking the freighter. While they're sleeping, Oliver has a nightmare where Shadow asks him why he didn't choose her. Then she stabs him and he wakes up breathless. Oliver then puts on Yao Fei's hood and gets ready to take the freighter. On the freighter, we see Anatoly in the prison. Anatoly is with a couple of other prisoners. We meet some dude called Hendrik and another guy who is a preacher Flynn. Hendrik spits on the preacher because he's like, we're in hell. Why are you still praying? Like, there's no point. We're all gonna die on this godforsaken freighter. The preacher's like, have faith, my brother. The captain of the ship rolls up, Ivo's like left-hand man. He comes in, he takes Anatoly back to Ivo's little torture room. They strap Anatoly to a chair. Anatoly is like, I'm from the Bratva, like, if you need money, like, they will give you money, okay? Just like, let me go. And Ivo's like, I'm not interested in money. I require an eye for my research. So on the beach, the trio sets off this huge signal fire, and the whole point of the signal fire is so that Ivo will see it and send men to the island to try and capture them, and that's exactly what happens. Ivo sees the fire, he stops torturing Anatoly, lets Anatoly go back to his cell. Anatoly still has both of his eyes, and then he sends a boat of men down to the island to capture them. So before Oliver gets captured and brought onto the freighter, we have another bro moment between Oliver and Slade, where Slade calls him his brother. Okay, and then Slade and Sarah run off into the woods and hide, and Oliver gets himself trapped and caught by Ivo's men, and he gets taken back to the freighter. Oliver gets thrown into a cell on the freighter. He's next to the preacher guy, and preacher says his name is Reverend Flynn. He says he got trapped by Ivo because Ivo tricked him, said he needed to administer last rites to a dying man on the ship, but it was all a trap, and then now he's stuck on the freighter, so that sucks. Captain comes out to collect Oliver, and Anatoly, who is also near Oliver, says Proshnost. I pronounce that so bad, it's Russian. They say it a lot. They say it before they drink, and I guess they say it before they're about to die too. Oliver gets taken away. Ivo's now interrogating Oliver. He straps Oliver to the same chair Anatoly was just strapped to. Ivo's like, where is Sarah and Slade? Oliver's like, I ain't telling you shit. So Ivo's like, okay. And then he injects him with truth serum, which is a thing that exists in this universe. Before we see what happens there, we get a flashback to the present at the Queen Mansion. Okay, Oliver is still attempting, very poorly, to get Slade Wilson the fuck out of his house. Moira keeps insisting that he needs to stay. He should have a tour of the mansion. Like, Slade Wilson, great guy. Oliver, shut up. Oliver, you're ruining this for me. Oliver, where are your manners? Moira walks away from Oliver and Slade for a second, and as soon as she walks away, Oliver pulls out a knife and tries to kill Slade. It's like, if he had killed Slade, like, how would you explain that to your mother? What would you say? Hey mom, sorry I just killed your largest donor. He's actually my evil brother from the island. Anyway, he obviously doesn't kill Slade. And then they both have to act supernatural when Moira comes back, because, like, Slade's not ready to blow his cover just yet. Slade has a plan. It's like Dutch Vanderlyn. I have a plan. Then Thea shows up, because Thea also lives in this mansion, and Moira's like, oh my god, Thea, you should give Mr. Wilson a tour of our art gallery. Back on the freighter, Oliver, injected with truth serum, Ivo starts asking questions. Oliver, under truth serum, tells Ivo that Sarah and Slade have a raft, and they're going to use that raft to get onto the freighter. He also says that they're headed for the engine room. Ivo sends every single one of his men back to the engine room just in case Sarah and Slade show up there. Oliver gets escorted back to his cell. We realize in this moment that Oliver lied under the truth serum because those magical herbs that Sarah was crushing up earlier counteract the effects of truth serum, because Sarah knew that Ivo was going to use truth serum on him, so she big-brained this whole thing, and Oliver was actually just pretending to be under the effects of truth serum, so he's able to fight off the guards and run away. Sarah and Slade are not on a raft. They are actually using the parachute that they took from the plane, so they're parachuting onto the freighter. Sarah and Slade meet up with Oliver. They give Oliver his bow back, and then they split up. Slade goes to the engine room, Sarah goes to free the prisoners, Oliver goes to find Ivo. Before we see how that turns out, we go back to the present again. Oliver calls Felicity, okay? He does not say any words, so Felicity thinks it's a butt dial. Felicity is in the Arrow Cave with Sarah, Diggle, and Roy. She puts Oliver's butt dial on, like, speaker so everyone can hear it, and Sarah hears Slade's voice and knows that it's Slade because there's no other Australian man in this universe. Sarah explains that Slade Wilson is on Marakuru, he hates Oliver, and they need to kill him. Basically, that's the rundown. Back on the island, On the freighter, Sarah goes and frees all the prisoners. Hendrik doesn't like her, okay? Hendrik is the guy that spit on the preacher. Hendrik tries to kill Sarah because he thinks that Sarah is working for Ivo. Anatoly saves Sarah. Slade goes to the engine room. He kills 5 men on screen, but probably more than that, okay? But I'm just going with 5 because that's all I could confirm. And Oliver finds Ivo. Ivo's dramatic backstory is revealed to us in this moment. He is on a phone call with his dying wife. His wife has, like, severe dementia. He wanted to get the Mirakuru so that he could save her, so that they could be in love again. Oliver shows up. He's got his bow aimed at Ivo. He's ready to kill Ivo, but Oliver lets Ivo monologue about his tragic backstory, and then he also starts rehashing the whole, you had the choice to kill Sarah or Shadow, and you chose Shadow. And Oliver's like, I did, and I regret it every day. And guess who's lurking behind listening to this whole conversation? Slade Wilson. Yes. Slade is now pissed at Oliver because Oliver killed Shadow. So they start fighting. Ivo is able to run away. There's a war going on this entire ship, all right? Oliver and Slade are fighting each other, and then also Ivo's men are fighting Ivo's prisoners. Okay, so all the prisoners have kind of banded together and are fighting the ship people. Anatoly, Sarah, and the preacher are all in a group together. Oliver ends up being able to dodge Slade and reconvene with them. Their plan is to jump off the boat and swim back to the island because the boat is going down. The boat is no longer a viable option to get them off of the island. So they need to get off of the boat before they get killed. 4 of them run towards the edge of the boat and try and jump ship. Oliver's the last one to jump off the edge. Of course, he gets grabbed by Slade. So Sarah, the preacher, and Anatoly are off the ship. Oliver is still on the ship with Slade. All of Ivo's men are now following Slade because Slade is scary. In the present, Team Arrow is assembled. They are at the Queen Mansion. They are in position. They are ready to take Slade out, okay? Diggle's in the bushes with the biggest gun I've ever seen in my life. He's waiting for the kill shot. All they gotta do is get Slade out in the open. Roy goes in first, okay? He is the distraction, all right? He walks into the mansion, and in the deepest voice he could possibly muster, he said, in the deepest voice he can possibly muster, he's like, Thea, you home? It made me laugh so bad. It reminded me of those TikToks, like, it's like, darling, guess who just escaped the psych ward? Roy shows up. Roy shakes hands with Slade Wilson for some reason. And that's how Slade realizes that Roy is on Mirakuru. Sarah also snuck into the mansion. She meets up with Oliver and she kind of like walks out to do like a surprise, I'm also here, Slade, kind of like reveal. So Sarah, Oliver, and Roy are kind of surrounding Slade. But also, Moira and Thea are just kind of there, like, confused. Because they can sense the tension in the room, but they're not really sure what exactly is happening. So then Slade is like, okay, it's time for me to go. So Oliver offers to walk Slade back to his car. When they walk outside, Slade's like, you're probably wondering why your man's not taking the kill shot. It's because one of Slade's men knocked Diggle out, so Diggle can't shoot Slade. Slade's like, I made you a promise. Slade's like, Oliver, I made you a promise, okay? And I intend to keep that promise. And then he gets in his car and he drives away. If you were curious about what the promise is, okay, we're about to find out because back on the island, Slade has Oliver tied up in a cage. And Slade goes up to Oliver and Oliver's like, are you gonna kill me? And Slade's like, not yet. He says that he's not gonna kill Oliver. He's not gonna let Oliver die until he's felt complete despair, okay? And that's a promise. This episode ends with us finding out that Slade has planted spy cameras all around the Queen Mansion. At the end of episode 15, Oliver made 9 dramatic speeches, 5 smart remarks, 26 dramatic pauses. I laughed at him 13 times, and he killed 2 people. The most dramatic pauses goes to Slade. He had 34, and Slade also had 9 dramatic speeches, a tie with Oliver. I also found Slade Wilson to be particularly funny, and I laughed at him 11 times, and he killed 6 people that I know of. Ivo was also up there with the dramatic speeches. He had 8 dramatic speeches and 14 dramatic pauses. This was a very dramatic episode, but the next one's crazier. Episode 16, Suicide Squad. Oliver goes to meet Alexei from the Bratva. If you remember Alexei, he was here in season 1. Oliver's like, hey Alexei, I need you to track down Slade Wilson for me. I need to know where he sleeps. And Alexei's like, yeah, will do, as long as you do something for me in return. And Oliver's like, nope, you're just gonna have to put this one on my tab, okay? I don't have time for your games. And Alexi's like, I don't think you understand how this brotherhood works. And Oliver's like, oh, I know how the brotherhood works. And right now, it works for me. So he pulls a gun on Alexi. Title screen. At Felicity's house, Diggle is sitting in his car. He's watching over her. Felicity comes outside and she's like, hey, Dig, you don't need to stalk me. If Slade Wilson's gonna come kill me, he's gonna kill me, okay? And there's nothing you can do about that. And Diggle's like, are you sure you'll be okay? And Felicity's like, yeah, you can go, okay? And it's a cute little moment. And then Diggle gets a text from Lila, and she asks him to meet at this hotel, so he immediately runs over there. At the hotel, Diggle thought this was some kind of an emergency, but Lila just wanted to hook up. So that's what they do. We get our first Diggle war flashback, okay? Diggle is marching with the military men, and they find this guy called Golim Kadir. And Kadir is the warlord that Diggle was talking about in season 1, how they had to protect him. Back in the present, Diggle and Lila leave the hotel room, and who do they run into on the way out? Amanda Waller, of course. And Amanda's like, hey, both of you, can you come to Argus? They all go to Argus, and at Argus, Amanda Waller explains the situation. There is a deadly nerve agent. Golim Kadir has the nerve agent. They need to get their team in to extract the nerve agent, okay? Also worth noting, Golim Kadir is the one who tried to purchase the prototype earthquake machine from a couple episodes ago, just in case you were wondering. And then Diggle's like, okay, you have a team? What team? And Amanda's like, OMG. You don't know about Task Force X? Let me introduce you to Task Force X. Amanda Waller opens some cell doors, and out comes a bunch of prisoners, including none other than the infamous dead shot Floyd Lawton, and he says, Task Force X. Let's call it how it is. Welcome to the Suicide Squad. Deadshot is in the Suicide Squad. Diggle, pissed. He's like, this is your unit, Waller? What, was OJ and Charles Manson not available? And Amanda's like, listen, you might not agree with my methods, but this is our best shot at getting that nerve agent out of there. Diggle's like, Lila, why are you on board with this? This is kind of crazy. And Lila's like, how many bodies have Oliver and Sarah dropped? We also get a quick Harley Quinn cameo. We don't see her, it's just her voice. The voice of Harley Quinn in the Arrowverse is Tara Strong, who is one of the main voices of Harley Quinn in all of the animated video games and TV shows and stuff, so that's a fun fact for you. At the Arrow Cave, Felicity has had no luck trying to track down Slade, but there is a robbery, so Oliver goes to deal with that. Oliver finds 2 men tied up unconscious at this robbery. And guess what else is there? Slade's mask, with an arrow through the eye. The Suicide Squad all have goofy-ass nicknames. We got Deadshot, Bronze Tiger, some dude called Shrapnel, not on the board, not important, we'll find out why later. Amanda Waller, her nickname is Mockingbird. Lila's nickname, Harbinger. Diggle, his nickname is Freelancer, which I find very funny. So that's the squad. We got Deadshot, Bronze Tiger, Freelancer, Harbinger, Mockingbird, and Shrapnel. We get another war flashback. In this flashback, Kadir is trying to bribe Diggle to let him free. But that doesn't work, obviously, and then some shots are fired in the distance, so everyone has to hunker down and fight. Back in the present, Suicide Squad plan is set in motion, okay? Diggle meets up with Kadir. It's supposed to be like a, oh my gosh, a random run-in. And then all of a sudden, from across the street, 2 bullets. Pow, pow. And Kadir gets saved because Diggle pushes him out of the way, right? So Diggle saves Kadir a second time. Kadir's like, oh my god, thank you for saving my life. Let me invite you to this thing I'm hosting. Diggle gets invited to Kadir's event, and that was the whole point of this really convoluted plan. During this really convoluted plan, our good friend Shrapnel goes rogue, okay? He doesn't want to be a part of the Suicide Squad anymore, so he steals a car and he starts driving away. He's driving. Waller's like, hey, buddy, you better come back, okay? And Shrapnel is not coming back, so Amanda Waller blows him up, okay? There's a bomb in the back of every one of the Suicide Squad members' necks, okay? And if they go rogue, Amanda blows him up. Diggle did not know about the bombs. So he's pissed. He's even more pissed, okay? He was already pissed, now he's double pissed. Alexei gives Oliver bank account info for Slade Wilson, and then Alexei's like, listen, Oliver, you're disowned from the Bratva, okay? Never come back here asking for favors again because we'll shoot you on sight. Oliver then goes to talk to Sarah, and he says, hey, Sarah, we can't be together, okay? You and I cannot be together because that makes you a target for Slade, okay? And I don't want Slade coming after you. And I'm watching this scene and I'm like, she's an assassin. If Slade wants to come for her, the bitch can defend herself. Like, Sarah is not helpless. Oliver is acting like everyone in this world is helpless except for him. Like, she's from the League of Assassins, bitch. And you're telling her that it's not safe to be in a relationship with you. We're back with the Suicide Squad. Deadshot and Diggle have a little moment where John's like, hey, why are you doing this? And Deadshot's like, I have a daughter, okay? And all of the money that I'm making from this Suicide Squad adventure is going to support her. I'm not in her life. His daughter's name is Zoe. Diggle's like, well, Zoe needs a father. And Deadshot's like, yeah, but not me, okay? I am the worst person that could ever be a father. Then Lila comes in, and Lila is like, okay, guys, the plan, simple. We are going to go to this benefit. Deadshot is going to walk right in. He's going to grab the nerve agent, and then he's going to walk out, and we're all going to be going home. That's the plan. Deadshot, Diggle, and Lila, they are in position at the event. Lila goes over the comms, and she's like, Harbinger to all, fire in the hole. And every time this bitch calls herself Harbinger, I get war flashbacks, but not war flashbacks to the past, war flashbacks to the future. Okay, because that Harbinger business, don't even get me started. If I even mention a word about what happens in season 8, you would probably look at me like I'm absolutely insane and deranged. Like, how could we possibly go from here to there? You know, like, it's an incredible leap. Okay, but we make it. I'm Harbinger now. We get another Diggle war flashback. This time we actually get to see what he was talking about in season 1. I remember in season 1 he said that he had to kill an 18-year-old boy who was a soldier for the opposing side of whatever war this is. They're in Afghanistan, I think. So he killed like an 18-year-old boy protecting Kadir. So we got to actually see that happen. Coral goes up to Oliver and she's like, hey, why are you pushing Sarah away? Like, don't push Sarah away, okay? Don't treat Sarah the way you treated me. And Oliver's like, listen, bitch, it's complicated, okay? You wouldn't understand. Your tiny lawyer brain could never understand the complicated life that I, Oliver Queen, lead. Felicity is able to get an address for Slade Wilson based off the bank account numbers that they got from the Bratva. So Oliver goes to that address. What does he find when he gets there? Alexei's dead body with an arrow through his eye, and there's a projector that's playing videos of Shadow. How the fuck do you have videos of Shadow? I don't know, but Slade has them and he's projecting them, and that's what Oliver finds at this address. Oliver then goes to talk to Sarah, and they both agree that they don't need to stop seeing each other, and so they agree to take down Slade Wilson together. Back with the Suicide Squad, it turns out that nerve agent, it's not a tiny little thing, okay? It's huge. There's no way Deadshot can pick it up and take it out. It's in this giant-ass tank. It's not going anywhere. And Waller's like, stand by, Deadshot, don't move. So Waller calls in a drone strike to the location. Lila is suddenly like, oh, maybe Amanda Waller is actually not that great of a person, and maybe we should probably go against her, because everyone in this room, all these innocent people who are here, are going to die. Diggle gets up, and he manages to get everyone evacuated from the place, and then Diggle runs down to where Deadshot is. He wants to get Deadshot out of here, too. Deadshot pulls a gun on Diggle. Diggle pulls a gun right back on Deadshot. They both have guns at each other, and Diggle's like, Deadshot, you gotta get out of here. You gotta get out of here, do it for Zoe. And Deadshot's like, I am doing this for Zoe. And then they both have like a back and forth a little bit until Deadshot finally is convinced to leave with Diggle, because his life is still worth living, okay? You might be a part of the Suicide Squad. You don't have to suicide for the squad. Deadshot is in the back of the van with the rest of the Suicide Squad. They are driving away. What's following them? The drone that Amanda Waller called in. Turns out the drone wasn't targeting the nerve agent. It was targeting Deadshot. Lila cuts the bomb, the tracker, whatever it is, out of Deadshot's neck. Amanda Waller is not happy about this. Lila and Diggle are suddenly on better terms with each other. They've both made up. So that's really all that matters. Oliver goes to Argus to talk to Amanda Waller, and he's like, yo, Amanda, I need your help. help. Okay, I need your help to track down Slade Wilson. And Amanda's like, oh, Slade Wilson. Just so happens that we've also been tracking Slade Wilson down, okay? We're calling him Deathstroke. So that's the end of the episode. We did get some Felicity lore. There was a lacrosse player who stalked her during her freshman year of college. Episode 16, Oliver made 6 dramatic speeches, 4 smart remarks, 18 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 6 times. Diggle and Amanda Waller both tied for the most dramatic speeches. They both made 7 each. There wasn't really that many dramatic pauses this episode. Like 18 is a relatively low number for Oliver, and Diggle came 1 over that. Diggle was also the funniest character. Laughed at him 7 times. Diggle also had the most smart remarks, okay? He had 9. Episode 17, Birds of Prey. We start with Sarah, the Arrow, and Lance. They are going and they're trying to arrest somebody. The guy that they arrest is Frank Bertinelli. Remember Frank Bertinelli, Frank number 2, Helena Bertinelli's dad. Helena does not like Frank. Helena wants to kill Frank. Remember that? Title screen. So Team Arrow catches Sarah up to speed on everything that happened with Helena. On the freighter, Oliver is being tortured by Slade. Laurel is at an AA meeting. She gets a call from Adam. He is offering her her job back, and he wants to give her the Frank Bertinelli case. Team Arrow gets a lead on Helena, or at least they think they do. They end up going after the wrong person, while Helena manages to come into the city. In the Arrow Cave, they still talk about Helena, but Oliver goes up to Roy, and he's like, Roy, I thought I was helping you get your anger under control. And Roy's like, you are. I can't look at a bowl of water without slapping it. And then Oliver's like, Roy, if you can't control your anger, I want you to stay away from Thea. And instead of getting mad at him, Roy kind of agrees. He's like, yeah, you're right. I am dangerous, and I probably should stay away from Thea. Team Arrow then sees a news report about Laurel taking on the Bertinelli case, and none of them like that. Sarah actually goes to Laurel and tries to convince her not to take the Bertinelli case, but Laurel is like, listen, this is my chance to get back in. This is my chance to prove to everyone that I am still a good lawyer. So I'm obviously taking the case. On the island, Sarah, with other notable characters, Anatoly, Hendrik, and the Preacher, they are at the wreckage of the plane. Okay, that's where everyone always hangs out on this island, so that's where they are. They get a radio call from Slade. Slade says, I want to trade Hendrik for Oliver, because Hendrik is an engineer, and I need an engineer to fix this stupid freighter. In the Arrow Cave, Oliver is crafting some non-lethal arrows when Sarah shows up. Sarah was not able to convince Laurel to get off the Bertinelli case, and then Oliver's like, I gotta go to the courthouse, and Sarah's like, oh, you forgot your baby arrows.
You forgot your baby arrows.
And then they start fighting because Oliver is like, we can't kill Helena, okay? I created her. I want to save her. And then Sarah's like, well, you also created Slade, but you're fine with killing him. What's the difference?
I failed, Helena.
Oliver gets to court. He meets up with Laurel. They're talking, and then Frank Bertinelli walks in, and it turns out the whole thing was just a trap to draw Helena Bertinelli out, and that's exactly what happens. So Helena shows up, the cops are there, but then Helena knew it was going to be a trap, so she hired some of her own goons, and so Helena ends up, like, taking the courthouse hostage, but Frank Bertinelli manages to get away. Oliver also manages to get away, but Laurel is trapped in the courthouse with Helena and her goons. Turns out that Adam knew that the whole thing was going to be a trap, okay? And he just kind of used Laurel as bait. Lance is very upset about this. Lance calls the Arrow. The Arrow's like, on it. Sarah shows up at the courthouse. She wants to save Laurel. Her only objective is to get Laurel out of there. So Sarah shows up suited up. She walks in there and she finds Laurel and she's like, I'm gonna help you get out of here. At the club, Roy goes up to Thea and he says, Thea, we need to break up. And she says, no. And that's the end of that conversation. In the courthouse, Laurel has a touching moment with Sarah, even though to Laurel, that's not Sarah, that's just a random woman in a mask. But they have a heart-to-heart about how sisters are, you know, they're so sister. So they start running. Sarah wants to get Laurel out of there. Laurel doesn't want to leave the other hostages behind. Oliver goes over comms to talk to Sarah, and he's like, you cannot engage with Helena. And Sarah's like, why? Because you're afraid I'll kill her. And then Oliver's like, you're not a killer, Sarah. She is literally a killer. On the island, there's drama going on. So Slade wants Hendrik. Sarah's like, Hendrik died, okay? He's not actually here. Slade's like, I know you're lying. So he electrocutes Oliver, and you can hear Oliver screaming over the radio. And then Hendrik pulls a gun on Sarah because he's worried that Sarah's gonna turn him over. Laurel and Sarah get to where the hostages are. Sarah starts fighting Helena. Helena ends up pushing Sarah out a window, and she keeps Laurel as one of the hostages. Helena calls Oliver, and she's like, simple trade. I will give you Laurel if you give me my father. Thea goes to refill the vodka at the bar, and what does she find in the storage closet? Roy hooking up with one of her bartenders. Officer Lance helps Sarah and Oliver steal Frank Bertinelli. On the island, Sarah and Anatoly knock Hendrik out because their plan is to trade him for Oliver. Vigilantes are about to trade Frank for Laurel when they get interrupted by the cops. So Sarah and Helena get into a fight again. Sarah is about to kill Helena when Laurel shows up, and Laurel convinces Sarah to stop. In the midst of all this chaos, Frank Bertinelli gets shot and killed by a cop. R.I.P. Frank number 2. You can join the rest of the Franks. Now we have only one living Frank left. Place your bets on how long he lasts. Helena gets arrested, so Oliver goes to talk to her. He's like, do you feel better now that Frank is dead? And she's like, no. It should have been me who killed him. I feel just the same, if not worse. On the freighter, Slade brands Oliver with Shadow's tattoo. Sarah calls Slade and she's like, we're gonna give you Hendrik. Okay, we're gonna make the trade. Laurel blackmails the DA so that she can keep her job as a lawyer. Okay? So that's fun. Thea is upset. Oliver goes to talk to her. They have a moment where Thea reveals that she knows that Roy was just trying to push her away, but she doesn't know why. And Oliver is just like trying to be super nice to her. He's trying to be supportive. And then Thea says, Oliver, I'm so glad I have you. You are the only person in my life who doesn't lie to me. This episode ends with Thea walking back to the mansion because she doesn't have a ride for whatever reason. And who rolls up? Slade Wilson. And he offers her a ride. And what does Thea do? She gets in the car. So at the end of episode 17, Oliver made 8 dramatic speeches, 2 smart remarks, 29 dramatic pauses, and I laughed at him 5 times. Laurel actually tied Oliver with 29 dramatic pauses and 2 smart remarks. The funniest character this episode was Roy. I laughed at him 6 times. The character with the most smart remarks was Sarah with 9. That's a really high number, actually, for this show. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the end of part 3. There's only one more part left, okay? Finale comes out next week, alright? Get hyped, get excited. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that. Like the video, please, thank you, please and thank you, por favor. Thanks for watching, bye-bye.